Well, the sirens, they're clearly for me. Hi guys, so this is going to be a video of basically what happened next after what I like to call now my Borderversary. It's now been a year since I actually lost my shit and threatened guns and finally got noticed and my mental illness acknowledged. Anyone who didn't see that video, I will link it below, but I'll also talk about a bit about it here. It was September 2016 that things had started coming to a head. I spent the year mostly estranged from my family, from my parents, my grandparents, and my husband. We split up quite a few times that year. There were a lot of times where I literally spent days in my room in isolation from all of my friends, all of my family, and it was just me and my dog. Really. Last year, as I don't really need to explain, but it was very turbulent for me. I was extremely unstable. And the beginning of the year, like, I didn't really notice any changes in myself. And changes that I did notice was, I thought, for a completely different reason. Like, I didn't realize it was because I had a mental illness. That took quite a while to accept. That took quite a while to see. Nobody was sitting me down and saying, look, I don't think you're well. I think, you know, maybe we should go to the doctors and discuss your mental health. I understand how hard that would have been for someone. Unfortunately, the fact that nobody did say that, it dragged everything out and just stopped me from getting the help that I really needed. Because any time that I heard, you're not well, you're mental, you're crazy, you need help, is when it was thrown at me in an argument. To me, it seemed like to have my parents back in my life again, or be back in my parents' life, I had to admit being crazy. And even up as far as September of last year, I was adamant that I'm not crazy. Like, no matter what, I was never going to admit that I was crazy because I didn't think that I was. September last year, it started to sink in. Because of all the arguments that I was having with people, mainly my parents and my grandparents, it just seemed to me like overkill. Like, there was just, I don't understand why there's so much animosity in my life. I don't understand why there's all these arguments. Like, it wasn't like this last year or whatever. I mean, I've always had lots of arguments, but never on this frequency, never on this scale. It was just after I'd argued with my parents and my parents yet again. And this, I was actually filming it at the time, and I will try and find that video and link it, but I think it's titled Family Sucks or something like that. And I just remember being so fucking angry at my parents and my grandparents, and like, my anger is so intense. It's like it has a physical reaction, like hard to sit still, and just, it's rage. It is rage. I was just talking about this to my camera, and all of a sudden it kind of dawned on me that, okay, I realize that I'm not in control of myself, but I think I'm in even less control of myself as I think I am. I will insert that clip here. I'm trying to figure out what's wrong with me. I think I know what's wrong with me. I think I got BPD. I'm really scared because I don't feel I'm in control. But I think I'm in even less control than I actually believe. And that is when sort of the light bulb went on for me. That was when I accepted, okay, yeah, I'm not well. There's something really wrong with me. Now, back in 2009, I was diagnosed with a personality disorder. I say diagnosed, I didn't have an official diagnosis. I ended up actually having to make a formal complaint about the professor that I saw. He calls himself professor, but he was a psychiatrist or a psychologist, I can't remember. And to be honest, I really don't know the difference. But he basically told me that he believes I have a personality disorder. Now that is as far as anything went with figuring out if I do have a personality disorder, which one, and all of that. Like, it didn't happen. So I was kind of aware that I might have been living with an undiagnosed personality disorder. That never really, took hold in my head. Something told me, check out what borderline personality disorder is. And I came across videos about personality disorder, and I was all ready to accept that there may be something seriously wrong. But I came across this channel which was basically all about warning guys about girls with personality disorders or borderline personality disorder. And this man, I mean, he's an old man, was just saying that these people are terrible people. They are mentally sick and they're twisted, they're evil, like, don't go near anyone with borderline personality disorder, they'll destroy you. And so I was like, what the hell did I just watch? I started kind of retreating a bit away from that label. I was very conscious about what it meant to be labelled as borderline. I was embarrassed. I didn't want to be seen as crazy. I was scared more than anything about what it meant and what was going to happen to me once I accepted I had a personality disorder. I am a very paranoid person. That is part of the condition as well. I've always seen mental illness as you're not in control of your own life anymore. I was afraid of starting the process, my independence being taken away. I was scared of having my life taken over by someone else and not being in control of my own life anymore. That is a big thing for me. Like, if you were to watch my videos, you can see the process of how my illness was developing and how it was kind of starting to sink in that I think I have borderline personality disorder. I was terrified. Like, it was literally the most terrifying time of my life. I had no idea who I was. I had no idea what I was or what I was doing. I was scared that I was evil, that I was going to destroy people, that I had the potential and the capability of hurting people in that way. And I was scared that this old man was saying about his ex-girlfriend and borderline people in general. I called my mum and I said, there's something wrong. And I'm not talking depression and anxiety. She said, yeah, I know. I agree. So I started telling her that I think that I have borderline personality disorder, and she asked me what that was, and I explained from what I could make out at that time by watching other people's videos and researching it. And I just got to the point where I was like, I have tried my hardest to get help. Literally, I had been on an antidepressant since 2004. And in that time, I'd only had one psychiatrist appointment in that whole time. I called my local psychiatric hospital and I wanted to sign myself in because I was so done with being how I was. I wanted the help, I needed the help, and I was literally willing to just sign myself in to a psych ward, and it had gotten to that point. I was turned away. At the same time, my mum was also calling my local psychiatric hospital trying to get me sectioned. I was more than willing for my mum to get me sectioned if that meant me getting the help. She was turned away and told, oh, she needs to go back to her general practitioner. I was then put through to another department, the crisis team. Oh, sorry, you're gonna have to go back to your GP. My mum had said, look, just pretend, act like you're violent and you have the potential to hurt someone, and they'll see you pretty quick. So I did. I said, well, I'm pretty sure that if I was to walk in with a gun, you would take me serious. And they were like, yeah, well, not really, but whatever. So that was that, and nothing came of it. The next day, I thought, you know what, I'm not going to be turned away this time. And I videoed the whole conversation with 3 or 4 different departments, and they turned me away. And that's when, again, I start mentioning guns. I wanted to sound like, you know, this person is a risk. I didn't want to be known as someone that was violent and capable of hurting people, because I'm not that kind of person. I wanted help, and I was willing to do whatever it took to get it. So the police came out to me, and I was taken to hospital, where I was turned away again. But I waited, and eventually I got to see an on-call doctor who actually took me seriously. And then I got to see a psychiatric liaison officer, and they agreed that I have borderline personality disorder. A psychiatric liaison officer, and he was so lovely. He came in and he said, I've been reading your file, and I see that you've had quite a lot of trauma in your life. And I'm thinking, what's that got to do with anything? And then he started talking about my first husband, and my first husband, well, we got married 13 years ago, and he had a brain injury. I ended up being his carer. I couldn't cope. He went into hospital, into a rehab centre. Then he came home. We got married. We were together for 2 years. But he just was not the same person, obviously. And I was only 21 at the time, and full-time carer for this man that I loved, but was no longer the man that I loved. And let's just say he had a very bad temper, and it became so bad that I could not live with him anymore. And we split up and got divorced, and yeah, that's a whole other, that's done. I was wondering, why is he bringing this up? So he said that borderline personality disorder is triggered by traumatic events. That was the angle he was going with. I believe that everything in my life that's gone wrong has triggered it a little bit more all the time. I don't think there was one particular thing that did it. I'm pretty sure, in the words of Lady Gaga, I was born this way. If not borderline, I was born with a ticket to borderline. So, yeah. So since then, I have still fought for help. I was almost turned away a couple of times, but within 2 days of being in the hospital, that night I was sent home. I wasn't locked up or anything like that, which I was really relieved about, obviously. He'd basically recommended that I was to be put on antipsychotics, and within 2 days, I was on them. I was so high, so happy, diagnosed. I mean, it was a preliminary. I needed assessments and whatnot, but finally I was being taken seriously, and finally I was taking my first steps into recovery, and I was high. It was the happiest I'd been in the longest time. And I took the pills and everything turned upside down again. It was horrific. The side effects, it just made me feel very depressed, just awful. I was put on quetiapine. It didn't go very well, but I stuck at them and they helped a lot. Honestly didn't really notice that they helped. I just sort of realised eventually that, oh, I don't rage anymore, and oh, I don't feel like that anymore, and oh, I don't do that anymore, and borderline symptoms started to change, not be so bad, and how I noticed that they were working. Like, I hadn't raged for God knows how long, and I'm like, wow, okay, that's obviously the medication. By November, I was having my first CBT session. Did not take to her very well because I had my belief system, and my belief system isn't necessarily logical. And basically, my belief system was challenged by the therapist. But after the first initial session, I really began to like her, and I really did benefit from it. I had 6 sessions, which is basically all I could have at the time. I can have more, but that means going on a waiting list, which, as far as I'm aware, I am on the waiting list. But yeah, these things don't come quickly. I did not have a very good Christmas. I have this thing where I'm pretty sure it's a form of disassociation, which is a symptom of borderline. I call it living with an alien family, because people feel like a certain way. Like, my mum feels like my mum, and my husband feels like my husband, but when I'm with my alien family, they don't feel like who they are. And basically what I mean by that is I disassociate, and my feelings are all over the place, and it is like my family have been taken over by aliens, because they look the same, they sound the same, they act the same, but they do not feel like they're them. That's the only way I can describe it. But they feel like strangers to me, and it's borderline. It's not just a thought. Like, your thoughts have feelings attached to them, so it's not like you're just having a thought and that's it. There is a feeling attached to it that's a very intense feeling, and it's very difficult when you are in a room full of family and none of them feel like your family. And on top of that, I felt nothing. Christmas is my favourite time, like absolute favourite time. It's just the most exciting and happiest time of my life, like every single year. This year, there was no feeling. Absolutely no feeling. It was as if someone had stolen Christmas. I went through the motions. I bought the presents and, the food, and made plans. I enjoyed the day, Christmas Day itself. Hubby, Millie and I spent it with my cousin and her family. And I did really have a good Christmas Day. It just didn't feel like Christmas to me. Which is sad, because I knew it would be Millie's last Christmas. And so I was very aware that we were spending one last Christmas with Millie. Not know that I was also going to lose Tyler this year as well, and that it was his last Christmas, but I do know they both had a really good Christmas. I know that much. Then got to February and I had a duty assessment. I think I have made a video on this. That went awful until I had a meltdown, and they thought, okay, yeah, this girl really does need help. They said, okay, so we will get an occupational therapist, which is going to help you, and it'll take you out and try and get you into a routine and all of things like that. And I'm happy about that. I don't want to be taken out, but I haven't seen them. So despite my psychiatrist telling me that I will see them. I have seen my psychiatrist 3 times. The first time I did not take to him at all. He just came across as a dick to me, and he does have an attitude, but honestly he is so fucking good at his job. He listens, he's very matter of fact, and he gets the point, and that's exactly what I need. First I thought, okay, we're gonna have issues, because he said, I don't think you're borderline, I think you have borderline traits, but I don't think you're borderline. I think that all of this is your anxiety. And I'm like, okay. I've seen him the second and the third time. I really liked him, and I thought he was really good. And I finally got a diagnosis on the 2nd of August this year, where he officially diagnosed me as borderline personality disorder. So yeah, I'm very happy with my diagnosis. I know that is really weird, but I can read about myself, as in symptoms, and I understand why I do certain things or say certain things to a certain degree. Like, I still don't know myself very well, but it just feels good to know that there is a reason that I'm the way that I am, and that I'm not just a dick. You know, I have this mental illness, and you know what, I'm still here, I'm still standing. I might get knocked down, in the words of Chumbawamba, but I get up again. I have horrific times, but I have really good times too. I've learned a lot in the last year. I've learned a lot about myself, about my condition. Still not 100% yet, nowhere near 100%, and I don't ever expect to be. There are a lot of changes still that I need to make, and there is a hell of a long way to go before I am in any way, shape or form in complete control of my emotions, if I ever will be. I did make a rookie mistake just after Christmas. I had stopped taking my tablets. I had forgotten to take them, and I felt so happy. Like, I was in such a good mood all the time, and I was, you know, living life without medication, and I was like, oh my god, you know, like, this is awesome. I'm feeling amazing. I don't feel down, I don't feel empty, I don't feel flat. I feel, and what I feel is really good. And I was doing amazing until I wasn't doing amazing anymore, and I started raging again and lost it completely. And I think that was the moment where I thought, okay, so these tablets are actually helping me. So yeah, so stupid. I will not be making that mistake again. I am back on the medication, and I am doing really well, and I can actually tell the difference now. Like, I am not noticing the symptoms leaving, but I'm noticing when the symptoms come back. And although the symptoms do come back, they're not in the same category as they were before I was taking the medication. I feel depression. I notice the difference between when I'm depressed and when I'm not, and I could never do that because I was depressed every day. I shall say